Steam Summer Sale is finally here, and honestly, this is one of the biggest Steam events of the entire year. For the next 2 weeks until July 9th, thousands of games are heavily discounted, from legendary AAA titles and horror classics to incredible RPGs and some absolute must-play games. But instead of spending hours scrolling through Steam, I've already picked out the deals that are actually worth your money. So today, let's go through some of the best Steam Summer Sale offers you definitely don't want to miss. Right at the start, Watch Dogs is sitting at 90% off, and even after all these years, it's still one of Ubisoft's most unique open world games. Instead of relying on over-the-top action all the time, the game lets you use Chicago itself as a weapon. You can hack traffic lights to cause crashes, disable security systems, control bridges, spy on people through cameras, and manipulate the city in ways that still feel impressive today. The story is much darker than most Ubisoft games, following Aiden Pierce as he hunts down the people responsible for a tragedy that changed his life. If you've never played the original Watch Dogs, this is an easy recommendation at this price. And next, Watch Dogs 2 is sitting at an even bigger 95% discount, and for a lot of players, this is actually the best game in the series. It trades the darker tone of the first game for a brighter version of San Francisco, while expanding almost every gameplay mechanic. Hacking becomes much more creative thanks to drones, RC cars, and a huge number of different gadgets that let you complete missions however you want. You can sneak through entire areas without ever being seen, create total chaos from a distance, or simply go in guns blazing. It's also one of the few Ubisoft open world games that feels genuinely fun to explore because there's always something happening around you. Up next, Riders Republic at 90% off, and if you're looking for something completely different, this game is pure adrenaline from start to finish. You're switching between bikes, skis, snowboards, wingsuits, and rocket wingsuits across massive open environments inspired by real national parks. One minute you're flying off a mountain, the next you're racing dozens of other players downhill at ridiculous speeds. The game never really slows down, and that's exactly why it's so addictive. Even if you're not usually into sports games, Riders Republic is more about having fun than being a realistic simulator. And next, Far Cry 4 at 90% off, and this is still one of the strongest entries in the entire Far Cry franchise. You're dropped into the beautiful but dangerous country of Kyrat, where every road, village, and mountain hides something worth discovering. Whether you're liberating outposts, hunting wildlife, flying gyrocopters, or simply exploring the world, there's always something to do. The villain, Pagan Min, is also one of Ubisoft's most memorable characters, and the open world gameplay still holds up incredibly well today. At 90% off, it's honestly hard to go wrong. Up next, Dishonored Definitive Edition at 90% off, including all of the DLC, and this is easily one of the best stealth games ever made. What makes Dishonored so special is the freedom it gives you. Every mission can be completed in dozens of different ways. You can quietly sneak across rooftops without anyone noticing, use supernatural powers to outsmart enemies, or fight your way through every encounter if that's your style. The world itself is also fantastic, combining industrial technology with dark fantasy in a way that still feels completely unique, and with all the DLC included, you're getting the complete experience for almost nothing. And next, let's talk about Sultan's game. This dark fantasy RPG is currently one of the more unique games I've come across during the Steam Summer Sale. Every 7 days you're forced to draw a fate card, and that single decision can completely change the direction of your playthrough. The game constantly puts you in difficult situations where there are no perfect choices, and many decisions have consequences that cannot be reversed later. If you enjoy story-driven RPGs where your actions actually matter, Sultan's game is definitely worth checking out during the sale. Next up is Kotama and Academy Citadel. This one combines fast-paced 2.5D hack-and-slash combat with a large, interconnected world full of secrets, shortcuts, and hidden areas. The exploration feels very similar to a Metroidvania, where new abilities gradually unlock access to locations you couldn't reach before. And what's especially interesting is that this is the game's first ever 20% discount, making it the lowest price the game has ever reached. And next we have RIP, Reincarnation Insurance Program. This is a top-down roguelite shooter that combines Diablo-style loot progression with the kind of chaotic bullet heaven gameplay that keeps you constantly moving. The game recently received a major update, including a complete talent rework for all 5 main characters and a new black market system that lets you target specific gear slots instead of relying entirely on random drops. If you enjoy roguelites with lots of progression and build variety, this is probably the best time to jump in, especially while it's available with a 15% discount during the summer sale. Up next, Call of Duty Modern Warfare Warfare 2 at 90% off, and this is one of the biggest AAA deals in the entire summer sale. Whether you're coming back for the campaign or jumping into multiplayer, there's a huge amount of content here. The campaign delivers the kind of cinematic action the series is known for, with missions that constantly switch between intense firefights, stealth operations, and large-scale set pieces. And if you're more into multiplayer, you're getting one of the most polished Call of Duty experiences, with plenty of maps, weapons, and progression to keep you busy for a long time. At 90% off, it's honestly one of the easiest recommendations in this sale. And next, Ghostwire Tokyo at 90% off, and this is one of the most underrated action games from the past few years. Instead of another typical open world game, you're exploring a beautifully recreated version of Tokyo after almost the entire population mysteriously disappears. The streets are empty, supernatural creatures are everywhere, and the atmosphere is unlike anything else. Combat is built around magical abilities instead of traditional weapons, letting you cast powerful elemental attacks while hunting down spirits throughout the city. Between the incredible visuals, unique setting, and surprisingly interesting story, this is definitely one of those games that's worth experiencing. Up next, A Plague Tale: Innocence at 90% off, and if you're looking for a game with an incredible story, don't skip this one. You play as Amicia and her younger brother Hugo as they struggle to survive during one of the darkest periods in history. The game mixes stealth, puzzle solving, and emotional storytelling incredibly well, creating an experience that's much more personal than most adventure games. The relationship between the two main characters is what really carries the story, and it's very easy to get invested in their journey. If you've never played it before, this is the perfect opportunity. And next, The Quarry at 90% off, and this is basically an interactive horror movie where every decision you make can completely change the outcome. You're controlling a group of camp counselors trying to survive one terrifying night, and almost every choice affects who lives, who dies, and how the story unfolds. The game is packed with branching paths, multiple endings, and fantastic performances from its cast, making it a great game to replay. If you enjoy horror games that focus heavily on storytelling and player choices, this one absolutely deserves a spot in your library. Up next, Dead Island 2 at 90% off, and this is easily one of the most satisfying zombie games you can play right now. The combat is incredibly brutal, with one of the best gore systems ever made, making every fight feel unique. Every weapon behaves differently, and you can customize them with all kinds of upgrades to create some ridiculous combination. Despite all the violence, the game never takes itself too seriously, balancing intense action with plenty of humor along the way. Whether you're playing solo or with friends, it's just a ridiculously fun zombie game, and at 90% off, it's an absolute steal. Up next, the Invincible at 90% off, and this is one of those games that proves you don't need constant action to keep players engaged. It's a story-driven sci-fi adventure based on the classic novel of the same name, and it absolutely nails the feeling of exploring an unknown planet. Instead of fighting enemies every few minutes, you're slowly uncovering a mystery, piecing together what happened to a missing crew, and making discoveries that keep pulling you deeper into the story. The environments are stunning, the soundtrack perfectly matches the lonely atmosphere, and if you enjoy slower games with great storytelling, this is an easy recommendation. And next, add Infinitum at 90% off, and if you're into psychological horror, this is definitely worth a look. You play as a German soldier haunted by the horrors of World War I, constantly shifting between reality and terrifying nightmares. The game relies much more on atmosphere and tension than cheap jump scares, and it does a great job making you feel uncomfortable the entire time. The environments constantly change, the sound design is excellent, and the story slowly reveals what's really happening inside the main character's mind. It's not your typical horror game, and that's exactly what makes it so memorable. Up next, Hotline Miami at 90% off, and even after all these years, it's still one of the most iconic indie games ever made. The gameplay is incredibly fast, brutally difficult, and rewards quick thinking just as much as fast reflexes. Every level feels like a puzzle where one mistake usually means starting over, but that also makes every successful run incredibly satisfying. Add in the unforgettable soundtrack, the unique visual style, and the mysterious story, and it's easy to see why so many people still recommend this game today. And next, Dead Space at 90% off, and this is easily one of the best survival horror games you can buy during the summer sale. Whether you're playing it for the first time or returning after years away, it still delivers an incredible experience. The atmosphere aboard the USG Ishimura is absolutely terrifying, with every hallway making you wonder what's waiting around the next corner. Combat feels unique thanks to the strategic dismemberment system, where simply shooting enemies isn't enough. Instead, you need to carefully target their limbs to survive. Between the incredible incredible sound design, fantastic visuals, and non-stop tension, this is one horror game that absolutely deserves all the praise it gets. Up next, TT Isle of Man, right on the edge, 3 at 90% off, and if you're into motorcycle racing games, this is one of the best deals you'll find in the entire sale. Unlike more casual racing games, this one leans heavily into realism, recreating one of the most dangerous motorcycle races in the world. Speeds regularly push past 200 miles per hour, and even the smallest mistake can instantly end your race. The bike handling feels great, the sense of speed is incredible, and if you're looking for a racing game that offers a real challenge, this one is definitely worth checking out. And that's just part 1. There are still plenty of incredible Steam summer sale deals left to cover, so tomorrow I'll be back with another video featuring even more games that are absolutely worth checking out. If you don't want to miss it, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're already on the road to 15,000 subscribers, which is honestly amazing, and I really appreciate every single one of you for the support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.